Hi guys, and welcome back to Rachel's Enchanting Cakes. This is just a little extra tutorial for you on top of the regular tutorials that will always be available on a Sunday at 7 p.m. So what have I done today? Well, I took the opportunity, this is actually for a customer, to record myself making it because it's the first one that I have ever been asked for. It is 12 cupcakes and they are presented on a 14-inch round decorated cake drum. Now don't worry if you don't have any of the moulds that I use in this tutorial, because it's a great opportunity to finally get all of those moulds you haven't used, we always have loads, don't we, stored to one side, out and finally put them to good use. You can decorate this any way you want. Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you like the tutorial. If you do, please give it a little share, subscribe to the channel to support it, and as mentioned, I will be back Sunday. The first thing we need to do is decorate this 14-inch round cake drum. Now, I've also got an 8-inch round cake base. I'm going to use this just to place an indentation on there later. I'm covering my cake drum with Renshaws ready to roll icing. You'll need roughly 1 kilogram for a 14-inch round cake drum. I'm using the Sweet Stamp by Amy Cakes. Now, do not worry if you don't have any of these sets. This is the Elegant set if you choose to invest in them in the future, but you can use any letter cutters you have. I will then be painting my embossed letters with this beautiful Rainbow Dust Midnight Blue metallic paint. If you do have one of the Sweet Stamp by Amy Cakes letter embossing sets, it's very important that you get the letters out that you're going to need first before we actually cover the drum with fondant, because the fondant can actually go dry. So using a piece of tacky fondant, I'm simply just pushing it on top of each letter that I require and removing it from the backing board. Do this with all of the letters. If you don't have one of these sets, as mentioned previously, just use any letter cutter that you want. To cover my cake drum, I have some spacers that are 5mm thick. This just helps give me an even covering. A very large rolling pin, sharp knife, a smoother, some icing sugar, and again the Renshaw's 1 kilogram of fondant, which will cover my 14-inch round drum. Just to know, if you don't have spacers, don't worry about it. It just helps keep my fondant exactly 5mm thick. Now all I'm doing here is rolling the fondant. I'm going to take my time in between the spacers, keep on lifting it up and moving it just so it doesn't stick to my surface. To actually stick the fondant onto a cake drum, all you need is to brush it with some cooled down boiled water. The reason we use cooled down boiled water is just for hygiene reasons rather than getting it directly from a tap. All I'm going to do now, using my rolling pin, and this is the easiest way to do it, drape it directly over the pin and then gently place it onto your cake drum. Use your smoother, go around the edges and cut off any excess fondant. Now I'm going to add the indentation I mentioned using that 8-inch cake tin base. I'm doing this just as a guide to place my cupcakes around the outside, and then the lettering is actually going to be going inside where this line will end up. So place this directly in the centre and then using a sharp knife just go around the outside so you have an indentation. Now, because I'm embossing using the Sweet Stamp set, if you haven't used this before, you'll want to watch this part. I'm simply going to place each letter on the inside part of that circle that I've just drawn, align everything up and then push them down and remove with some tweezers. If you are using normal letter cutters, you want to be placing the letters again in the same area that I am doing here. It will give you plenty of room for your cupcakes and the lettering will be perfect in regards to where it is and how it's shaped. Once all of these embossing letters are on there, all you do is push each one down really deeply into the fondant. And as mentioned, using some tweezers, gently pull it away. You then want to leave the cake drum to set. And whilst it's setting, we'll be making some of the decorations for our cupcake wreath. This is how effective the sweet stamp actually is on a cake and a cake drum. Whilst your cake drum is actually drying, we're going to start on some of the decorations. So my main colours are the Renshaw's Poppy Red and the Lincoln Green. I'm going to be turning these into modelling paste using Tylo powder. You want 1 level teaspoon to every 250 grams. Here I have the Katiesue Bauble mould, which is fantastic. This is a Karen Davis mould and the bows on it look absolutely amazing. And here, this is called a click sticks. They're really, really good. I'm going to be using this for the different sized pieces of holly. Some icing sugar and a rolling pin. I'm going to start by making the bows. Now in these moulds, I like to use Trex vegetable fat. I find it's really, really simple to get them out. So simply rub some Trex directly into your mould and then add the modelling paste colour of your choice. I'm going to be using this one for the top of my cupcake wreath. All I need to do now is actually remove it from the mould, and it is relatively simple. If you just tip the mould upside down, because of the Trex, they do tend to come out very, very easily. But look how stunning it is. You then want to repeat that process, but with some of the smaller bows, if you have this particular mould. Remember what I said. Just use the Christmassy moulds you have in your kitchen. And if you want to make it like this one next year, these are pieces of equipment that you can always invest in the future. The Katiesue Bauble mould. Now, this is also an impression mat, and I absolutely love it. Again, I'm just using a small amount of Trex vegetable fat and then taking a colour of my choice. I find if you use 2 main colours and you're very creative with it, it works really well on cakes. So the main colours on here are the green and the red, and then I shall just add a very small amount of gold paint. So I'm just going to push in some modelling paste again, and you will find that it comes out very, very, very easily, but leaves such a beautiful effect behind. Again, just like we did with the bow, if we tip this upside down, you'll find that these baubles come out so easily. And it's just due to that Trex vegetable fat, but look at the detail. If you have this mould, simply repeat this and make as many baubles, different shapes and sizes as you want to. Using some 100% edible rainbow dust gold metallic paint, I'm now going to paint over those details on those baubles. It is quite time consuming, but it will give a fantastic effect. I will then repeat this with the centre of each of the bows. For the holly, all I have done is rolled out my Lincoln Green modelling paste. Now with the click sticks, all you do is push them down really hard. Use your finger on the back just to make sure it's cut through properly. And then you place it back onto your work surface. And when you push the click sticks down, it will leave an embossed effect on there. So put on some pressure, and this is what you will end up with. You then want to make quite a few of these and repeat this process so that you have enough to cover all of your cupcake wreath. Then simply add 3 red balls to the centre of each piece of holly. Now that all of the decorations have been made, we need to use this very fine brush. The cake drum has had plenty of time to set, and you simply want to paint inside each embossed letter. Yay, now we finally get to piece everything together. I know sugar work can take a while, but it's really, really worth the extra effort. This is my classic Victoria sponge recipe, and I will leave a link for that for you in the description below this particular video. The link that I will leave will make you 24 cupcakes, so if you just halve the recipe, you'll end up with 12. Simply place each of your cupcakes around the outside of your cake drum. Here I have my green buttercream and a Wilton 2D piping nozzle. I also have a separate recipe for you for the buttercream, and you can find that in the description below this video. I've just added some green food colour into it and I've let it mature, as you will find when you add food colour into buttercream, the longer you leave it, the darker it will get. To apply this to your cupcakes, simply gently push and pull away. It's really, really easy. But if you are a hobby baker, it's not something that you can really go wrong with if you're not used to piping. So that's why I highly recommend this for new bakers. Simply go over every single cupcake and then do your best to try and cover that gap just in between each one. As you can see that I'm doing just here. That way, if you do that, it looks like it's one solid piece rather than individual cupcakes. Now, before your buttercream starts to crust, you just want to add all of those beautiful sugarwork decorations randomly to your wreath. Now I'm going to start with the large bow and just place this directly on the top, just above the word merry. And then simply go around, add each decoration, and voila, you have created your own little masterpiece.